Chris. Okay, Chris is at work, so hopefully he can stay in there. Good morning, I'm Brian Webster, N2KGC, the kind of de facto, they tell me I'm the president of EastNet. They tell me I'm a president of two companies too, but they don't listen to me there either, so. All right, let's do some introductions. I'm gonna start with Don because he's the first one in my upper left corner of my screen. So Don, our secretary, would you please introduce yourself and then I'll go to the next person.
Good morning, everyone. Don Goen, K1CMM. I'm the SysApp and trustee and statutory agent for the Middlesex Amateur Radio Society, W1ADH Packet Network and Voice Network. Welcome, everybody.
Good morning, Don. Thank you. And thank you for putting the notes or the stuff out on the email. Bob Plank, good morning, sir. Introduction, and then we'll pass it to the next person.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Bob, and I run the KK4 DIV7 node down here, Panama City, Florida area. I saw Glenn N3MEL's bulletin there on Packet, and took some searching to get the right link, as I heard some people talking earlier. But I was able to find it and get logged in for the first time. So I'm looking forward to the meeting.
Well, welcome to the group and awesome. Great to have you here. Steve, good morning, sir. K3FZT. Can I have your new introduction and hopefully you're feeling good this morning.
Well, good morning, all. It's been a few quarters since I've been here. I got off sync with your schedule. I'm in Philadelphia. I have a packet node and bulletin board, which at the moment is off the air. Even for the 6 months before, I'd only had one connection. There is a lot, there is packet activity in the Philadelphia area, and so mine may be redundant. Instead, I've been working with the local Arden Mesh Group, the Montgomery County Amateur Radio Group, and the Jim Fisher Memorial Digital Networking Association, working on finding sites for new backbone nodes and getting my own Net 44 system up. Thank you, Charles, and to NOV for the WireGuard VPN. Take it next.
Well, good morning and thank you. Miskos, you're next. Let's have a little introduction and give us any news you've got on your side.
Okay, first of all, I would like to ask you if you can hear me, okay?
Yes, I can hear you just fine. Thank you.
Okay, just a few more information. Since my last previous participation in this Zoom meeting, I got two news. The first one is that now I have one undergraduate student at the local university, computer software department, who is likely to do his final graduation work paper with the amateur radio. So we are working together. I want to assist him to finish with his paper properly. And the second information is that I'm preparing to participate in one international technical conference, IEEE Melecon 2024, that is going to be happen in Portugal, in Europe, in roughly 15 days. So I will go there to talk about WinLink system that I administer here in Serbia, as well as my experience in the packet radio, Pactor, and other transmissions. So that is news from Novi Sad, Serbia.
Well, awesome. Thank you. Thank you for your updates. And let's hope that your other participant there, he gets the packet bug and gets really into it. Helps the network out there. Fantastic. Thank you. Mark, good morning, sir. N2MH to get it. Good to see you.
Yeah, good morning, Brian. This is Mark, N2MH. I come to you from Oak Island, North Carolina, where we are about a mile from the ocean, as opposed to our New Jersey location in West Orange, outside of New York City. Our news is that we have brought up a second BBS here in Oak Island. This one's a BPQ station, whereas the one in New Jersey is JNOS. So we now can talk a little bit more intelligently about what it takes to connect JNOS to BPQ. But in any event, we have that up and running, and we found some interesting effects between the two. And yeah, I'm the guy who started this one discussion on the BPQ net list the other day. So without that, back to you. And if anybody is interested in Arden, the Amateur Radio Emergency Data Network, I can talk to a little bit about it. Myself and Chuck, who you will speak to later, are both Arden ambassadors. So we can talk to you about anyone in the group about that. Back to you, Brian.
Thank you, Mark, and I love your participation when you can make it with us. So this is good to see you this morning. Jeffrey, AJ2A, good morning, sir. Introduction.
Good morning. Good morning. The Adirondacks are a little wet this morning, but otherwise okay. Got my node's been pretty stable. I'm adding some little
The
things.
the node's stable, you're still unstable, right?
Yeah, well, you know, hey, yeah, it goes with the territory. Adirondacks. It's like, so I have a couple little toys I've been playing with on my node. I have a Wikipedia search option, and what else did I put? Oh, an hourly picture of my Twitch stream with the birds, very low resolution. And I'm looking just to add some things that, you know,
Cool stuff.
are maybe worth visiting.
Yeah, stuff. That's all right. Good. All right. Welcome this morning, and we'll have good discussion once we get going. Greg, K1UH. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Brian and the group. K1UH. I'm up in Massachusetts, actually on Nantucket Island. I've been working with Charles on getting the VPN going to the 44 net. I have no direct packet experience, although Charles has been twisting my arm once I get the internet connection, particularly for digital message traffic and traffic nets. So let's see what else. I have been listening or participating in the Arden group up in Massachusetts because I know the New England group hasn't established the ArdenNet. I'm a little far offshore to be able to probably get into the mesh that way, but I'm enjoying just learning and listening in this meeting. And yeah, I'm interested to hear what Charles has to say later on, and just hear what the group has to say. So back to you.
The Arden networks and the packet networks have the ability to interconnect, and some of them do. So, you know, even if you can't make an Arden link, you might be able to do a packet link and link it into Arden that way. So we can always talk about that stuff. And of course, any of these things, if you're not on the group's IO mailing list, do so, and because that seems to be the melting pot for the collective knowledge. It's quite quiet, but when a good topic comes up that people are interested, the activity peaks up. So if you aren't members of the group's IO, do that. And then if none of you are members of the Zero Retries newsletter from Steve Stroh, I encourage you to subscribe to that too, because that's a great source of knowledge. Ron, NY3J, good morning, sir.
Good morning, everybody. Ron, November Yankee 3 Juliet in Bucks County, right north of Philadelphia. And I'm just an end user, so a lot of stuff is way over the head. But usually use Vara, and I saw Art up, and I wanted to play around with it. So I'm interested in that, and we'll see where it takes me. Back to you, NY3J.
Well, good morning, Ron. And the Art Off discussion has probably drawn a lot of people here today, and Glenn and company are going to have that discussion. Chuck, you just walked away from the screen. Do I need to come back to you, or you're just standing outside where I can't see? NCH8Q. Good morning, sir.
There we go, trying to unmute here. I was gonna top off my coffee cup, so I stepped away, didn't know I was up next. Interested in the RDOT, I just saw an email from John, G8BPQ about running QT sound loading and RDOT at the same time. So then I wouldn't have to give up my AX.25 or my IL2P modems. So I'm very interested in listening. Thank you.
Very good. Glenn, you're going to be a hot topic today. Jim, KY2D. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Brian and everyone else. This is Jim KY2D, formerly of New Jersey, now in Damariscotta, Maine. I am responsible within Radio Relay International for the eastern third of the U.S. for their digital traffic network. I'm a traffic guy, radiograms, nets, voice nets, CW nets, and of course, digital transfer of radiograms. I also have it's a BPQ system running here, also tied to 44net and with VHF packet to a multi-county, what was formerly pretty much an island set of nodes here on packet. So now messages can traverse between 44net and that main island and also to the RRI digital traffic network.
And Jim's going to be another popular guy today because hopefully he's going to pick up the discussion about RRI that I mentioned on my email. And are you time constrained with anything, Jim? Or
I'd rather not go to past an hour and a half or so. I've got to get to the post office later this morning.
Okay. So you got a slight time constriction. We'll make sure we get to you quick as we can.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks. Ted, K1YON. Good morning, sir.
Let's see. Do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
Okay. It's been a challenge to get on the air on the Zoom meeting.
Yeah, that was my fault, Ted. I sent out the wrong link.
Oh, I never got a second link and I had to call Pat to get the ID.
Well, good morning. And
Good morning.
we'll see you on Tuesday, by the way.
Yeah, I guess so. Have we firmed up where we're meeting?
There's an exit right there that has a bagel shop. I'll have to look at that again. That's where I met.
Yeah, I suggested to Pat that there's a McDonald's that we always used to meet there. Maybe that's a possibility.
Okay, well, I'll put out something to that small little group and we'll do that. Okay, I'll make sure I do that after the meeting.
Yep.
Ron, NY3J, did I ask you yet?
Yep, already got me. Thanks.
My screen's been shifting around. Alan, N8WQ, good morning, sir. Introduce yourself and let's hear what you have to say this morning.
Yeah, good morning, guys. I don't have a video camera, so sorry about that. But anyhow, I'm recovering from right knee replacement surgery. I'm about 40 days plus, and I'm just glad I can sit at my computer desk and participate with you guys today. And I don't have anything going on packet-wise here at the shack, but that's why I'm attending today to soak up all the knowledge from you guys. So I'm just glad to be here, and I'm very interested in setting up my own JNOS system. However, I haven't found a whole lot of information on how to do it. That's probably my fault. But if anybody would like to help me, just let me know.
Write down this call sign. Charles N2NOW or NOV is on this call. He is very well versed in JNOS and he can get you pointed to documentation and everything. Where are you located?
Oh, I'm in Canal, Winchester, Ohio.
Okay, very good.
Now, what was the call sign you said?
N2NOV.
Can you do that phonetically for me?
November 2, November, Oscar, Victor.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. And again, it's good to see all you guys.
Well, welcome. And we love to have new people coming in and people who want to learn. The ambition is always very much appreciated. So we'll get you pointed in the right direction. We got people that know about all this different stuff. So thank you for joining. Chris, K1MAL, did I ask you to speak yet or not?
Nope, but I'll go real quick here.
Good.
This is Chris, K1MAL. I run a digipeater in Prospect, Connecticut. I have a BPQ system on 44net that has a couple other nodes linked to it. They all pretty much help provide access to MAT KA1 VSC's big bulletin board system here in Connecticut. And other than that, not much has changed here in the Nutmeg State. And I'll pass it back to Net Control.
Well, I've got you right here, Chris. We're going to Mountain Ingham and Putnam County on Tuesday. And probably going to try to activate a link. They've got old links sitting up there with radios aimed in your direction. I'm going to activate. I think they're all UHF that are up there. So hopefully you can put a link in as well. And we can get the one link back to Ted. So
yeah, that would be nice. I never really found a good 220 radio. So for right now, I'm pretty much focused on UHF.
Yeah, the only 220 radio they've got on that site links down in New Jersey anyway, so
Okay.
gonna be a UHF link if so be looking for that hopefully to come up after this week.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if I could hear Ted when he gets his system back up too.
Okay.
Chris, what town are you in?
I'm in Waterbury and my digipeater is up in a hill in Prospect.
Okay.
And Chris, this is K1YON. I'm running 9600 baud on the UHF. You got something for that?
Yeah, I have a couple 9600 modems, and if I could hear it, I could probably figure it out.
Well,
right.
if you can, you got to let us know because we got to put you in the link statement so you're allowed to connect. But
yeah, no, but the big challenge would be if just hearing it because of the terrain around here.
Yeah,
on
Chris,
UHF.
Chris, are you set up on UHF 9600 at this time with an antenna?
No, I am not. I took my 9600 node down to repurpose it for something else.
This would be at Prospect though, right?
No, the UHF side would have to be at Waterbury. Prospect is an outdoor cabinet. There's no room to add another radio in it.
Chris, do you know if you can connect to W1EDH?
I can hear W1EDH on VHF, and I can sometimes hear it on UHF.
Okay.
Okay, because YON is down right now, but I plan to turn it on because we hopefully will get that link going Tuesday.
Yeah, that's what I'm sitting down waiting for. I knew you were down, and I have somebody else that might be interested up in Burlington too. So we're all kind of waiting to see what happens when YON gets back on the air.
Yeah, Burlington would be great. Very good, Chris.
Glenn, K3MEL. Good morning, sir. Brief introduction, and we're going to give you the floor after a few minutes after I finish the introductions.
Good morning, everyone. Good to see everybody today. And Glenn, N3MEL. I'm about 25 miles west of Philly in southeastern PA, about 7 miles to the Delaware border, and run a BPQ node here with Arden and Vera FM, Vera HF, and now RDOT. So lots of stuff going on. And we have a nice little network starting here. So for RF backbone. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you. Pat, WB2CMF. Good morning, sir. Your introduction.
Good morning, WB2CMF Pat. I'm the sysop of my own node, WB2CMF. I'm the sysop and trustee now of the WA2PNU node and co-sysop of the W2KPQ node. They're running URO node, FBB, and FlexNet, and they keep me pretty busy.
Good. Good morning, sir. Eric, N2KOJ, brief introduction, and then let's see who else. Go ahead. Your turn.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Eric, N2KOJ, now a resident of Pennsylvania, lifelong Jersey. I was big into packet back in the 90s, with the rose switches and all that stuff. So I'm having to relearn everything. I've got, like I said, I've got access to Camelback, but I want to put something up here. Just trying to figure out trying to learn. But at the present time, I'm just kind of soaking up everything because my full-time job is an 18-month-old that is just running around wrecking the house right now, which is fine because that's what they do. But I currently, if you want to email me, KO and VSC has been nice to give me some access. So at least I've been kind of telnetting in him and kind of going around and kind of seeing, relearning it. Because I mean, back when I was in, it was literally just 1200, and I think 9600 was new. But I missed it, and appreciate all your guys' hard work and everyone offering to help. But that's why I come here, and I appreciate it. And to KOJ with the harmonic, say hi. She says hi. I had to.
Well, good, Eric. There's still predominantly 1200 baud, and since you can get to Camelback and stuff, you want to talk to me and then talk to Chris, WW2BSA. And let's do sidebar conversations about you being able to connect into the networks and stuff.
And I used to live around the corner from Chris too.
Okay, good. So, but he's got his school, his mountain site back up, and and I've got stuff that could link to Camelback. So we need to talk.
And I actually might have another site in Bangor, PA. It's a really great site that if we can get some stuff together, we might be able to put something else up, and it's got some different coverages in Camelback, but we can talk about that.
Excellent. Well, that'd be awesome. Chris, WW2BSA, good morning, you. Hopefully you've got time to talk right now and do your introduction. Or you're not, because you said you're at work, so I think he must be busy. All right. Tom, KE4QCM, did I already ask you for an introduction yet?
Good morning, Brian. Everyone here connected this morning. Good to hear everyone. Just checking in, learn more about Packet. Run a BPQ node here near Atlanta, KE4QCM-7, and recently trying to find some assistance to get into JNOS and trying to promote Packet Radio here in Georgia. It's pretty low activity here in Georgia, so great to connect with everyone this morning.
Good morning and welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Charles, N2NOV. Good morning, sir. How busy are you down there at work?
If it's not one thing, it's another, I tell you. Good morning, everyone. N2NOV. Happily or unhappily at work at the U.S. Postal Service. Gotta love Saturdays. Anyway, I'm sure most of you have been reading my complaints and pointing out what could have been done better on the air. That was and still is an issue for a lot of people. Pat and I were talking about the issues the other day. The thing is to just stay the course. We all gotta plow through this. Most of the people on the ARDC have not gone through their verification process yet or claiming their DNS records. So this is going to be an ongoing situation. So just have some patience. And if I'm able to later on today touch on some of this VPN stuff, which has been confusing to a lot of people and hidden information that I'm just learning about on the ARDC side. So if it's not one thing, it's another. Running JNOS BBS, the 44net coordinator for all of cold areas 1, 2, and 3. And I get emails and questions from people outside of the Northeast. I'm no problem helping them out as best I can. So whether it's Tom or the guys out in Ohio like Alan, no problem. Just contact me. We'll get things figured out, step at a time. Back to you.
Thanks, Charles, and we'll give you some time on the floor to talk about 44net and the gateways, ham gates and stuff, so we can talk about that. Jeff, KP3 FT, if you like speaking, doing an introduction, I'll give you a second. I know you said that talking right now was a little difficult, and so, but I'll give you an opportunity to say hi, and if you don't, that's okay too.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. How's my audio?
You're good enough. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm running a EastNet and BPQ node. I'm located roughly between Utica and Binghamton in upstate New York. And my main interest, almost my only interest, is RF linking nodes and existing networks using any mode and any band. Back to you, Brian.
Very good. And Jeff is one of the key testers and implementers of the WinLink backbone links, and now the RDOF, or RDOP. RDOF is something I do for work, and I'll make that mistake all the time, but he's been instrumental working with Glenn and stuff like that, and testing and validating and all that stuff. So he's been helping us a lot, doing things and documenting things as well. Brian, W1BKW, I would have said something to you, and I know you haven't done an introduction yet because you've got a great first name and you spell it right too.
Good morning, W1BKW up in Maine. I'm new to all of this, working with Charles N2NOV on getting set up on a tunnel there. Recently just worked with Dave K9 DC to get on the VPN beta. So just digging in and learning.
Good. Well, this is a group to learn from. That's for sure. The collective knowledge of a bunch of these people is amazing.
Yes.
Welcome. And if you haven't subscribed to the Groups IO mailing list, please do. And like I said, I mentioned it before, but if you haven't subscribed to the Zero Retries newsletter, that's good technical knowledge that we don't get in a lot of other ham radio publications, and it comes out weekly. So it's a great publication. All right, David, KN4LQN, did we do an introduction yet? I can't remember.
No, sir. This is David KN4LQN, Central Virginia, currently on vacation in Laredo, Texas. We run a couple of BPQ, BBSs, and nodes in Central Virginia. Everything's doing fine. I also added in the RDOT port to the has been existing VARA HF backbone, and looking forward to the discussion.
Awesome. Well, welcome. Good to have you back. Damon, N1LJK, did we do an introduction yet? I don't think so.
No, I have not. I joined late this morning. I'm in Booth Bay, Maine. I have a BPQ node, mostly as a personal mail system attached to the main packet network in the mid-coast here. My interests are breaking out the mid-coast network's backbone into discrete backbone links. Right now, they all share the same UHF frequency. This ties into an effort with a mesh network. I'm interested in new packet radio, have a couple transceivers here I'm hoping to set up later today. And this morning's project is migrating my BPQ nodes SD card over to an SSD drive for stability. That station at home also as an APRS station on BPQ, which sends telemetry out for the citizen weather CWOP program to NOAA. So that's my setup here and most of my interests. Back to you.
Well, good morning, and we welcome you back. All right, we've got somebody on the telephone. I know that just shows a phone number. So who's ever on the phone, go ahead and make your introduction, give us a call sign and all that stuff.
Good morning, it's Matt, KA1VSC. Can you hear
Good
me?
morning, Matt.
Hey, how's it going? This is Matt. I already said that. What's that?
Another wonderful Webster, as we say, right?
That's right. No relation, but somewhere down the line there probably is. I run the main BBS in Connecticut. It's running a hybrid system of FlexNet, URO node, and BPQ. Most of the FlexNet and URO node is basically used for interconnections, not user side. My user side on 2 meters is a full-blown BPQ node and BBS. I'm on UHF, VHF, 44net, internet, and the Arden mesh. Currently traveling like I usually am, so I apologize for the telephone-only connection.
Oh, you're the only one on the phone, so you've got it all to yourself. Where are you today? You still in Texas?
No, I'm in Illinois, a little bit outside of St. Louis, heading to Memphis.
Well, there you go. Well, thanks for taking the time to jump in. And I know you're always on the road for those of you who don't know Matt, he's a long haul trucker, so sometimes it's challenging for him to be able to take the time to make time for us in our group. So your efforts are always appreciated, and so welcome. All right, let's get to the agenda because we're already 40 minutes into this and we're just talking to each other. Let's see here. Where does no, I gotta go here. All right, I'm going to jump to the full-time interconnected packet systems just for a second. We need to get networks connected via RF in case the internet goes down. So, and that's why I've got Glenn and company here to talk about the exciting RDOP stuff. And we've done it with Vera HF in the past. And what the idea is that for the packet networks that can't connect on VHF, UHF 220 to each other, and they're like islands of coverage, rather than solely relying on internet to connect to other people outside of your local network, use RF. Well, the HF options that Glenn's going to talk about on either Vera or RDOF are an interesting way to link these geographically separated areas. And while they're not full-time links, they are good for scheduled, coordinated, and planned BBS message forwarding. And so that'll get near real-time communications across the network like we used to have way back in the days when you only had dial-up networks and things like that. So the idea that I'm suggesting here is that if you're going to be run a node rather than just a user, you're typically going to have more than one node radio. You can't do everything on one frequency because it gets inefficient quite quickly. So you've got the concept of one radio that users connect in and a port, other links on like UHF 220, 9600 baud on 900 even. And then of course now we've got the HF option. So the concept is the packet networks are built around multi-technologies, multiple links. It's not a single frequency, single radio technology. So when you get your mind around that concept, some of these other things that we talk about start to make more sense, and it creates our resiliency and not a dependence on the internet so much. And I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to turn the floor over to Glenn and 3MEL, and he can talk about the RDOP and touch on the WinLink as well. Not WinLink. That's what I wanted you to talk about, that this is not WinLink.
This is not WinLink.
That's right. So that's important. Go ahead, Glenn, take the floor.
Any chance you can share my screen?
Can you, have you got to be granted? Don, can you give Don and Glenn and 3MEL presentation skills, please?
Give me a minute here. Let me find them on a list.
Well, you're already on the list, Don, or Glenn.
Glenn, where are you? You gotta be here. There we go. Okay. I will make you a co-host and then you can share the screen.
Excellent.
I think I can do that. Yeah, make co-host.
It's much more interesting if you're not looking at me. So
yeah, there's a message should come up and you'll have to answer yes.
all right, not seeing it yet.
Did you see it?
Not yet.
It might be a separate window. It might be buried behind something.
You should be able to share your screen.
He's got it.
There you
it come up?
go. Yep.
We can see it.
Okay. Excellent. So,
Oh, Glenn?
yep.
Can you send me those slides so that I can include it with the information on the meeting?
I certainly will.
Okay. It's yeah.
We'll get it.
I'll get it to you.
Okay.
I got your call. So, all right. Well, welcome everyone. So we've had some initiative here in the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast to kind of take WinLink out of the midstream and make packet relative. And
you know, the way to do it in our mind is RF, because there's just too much relying on the internet, in our opinion. And then the internet's great, it's a great tool, all that stuff. So this little presentation Jeff and I kind of put together. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. I'll send it out later, but it just kind of explains how we got here and where we're heading. So kind of a little bit of our history is that Brian, K3 VSP in Delaware, approached me a couple of years ago about some UHF forwarding, some NetROM forwarding. We're only 21 miles apart, but we cannot connect direct in any means or fashion. So we had a node put up at the W3 DRA site, which is right on the Pennsylvania Delaware line. So we were using UHF 1200 baud because of the node. That's all it would do. And that ran for almost a year before we realized or heard there was a UHF repeater on the same site, and it was having fits, and we filtered it and did all kinds of stuff, but couldn't stop the desensing on the receive side of the repeater. So we ended up shutting it down. And then we looked for some other options in a few other states for sites, and sites are hard to come by. And we approached some fire companies and some other places that had towers, and the first thing out of their mouth is insurance and liability and all that stuff, and we just didn't have any interest in that. So that got us to the HF option. And when we started discussing that, that's when Jeff came on board, KP3FT, and we started out with 300 baud AX25, and on HF found out very quickly that it didn't work very well because of the WinLink situation and all the gateways and all the wide gateways and all the different stuff that was going on. It was pretty tough. So we made our way to Vera HF, and that was it's quite a mode, quite a modem, and it works very, very well. We're doing 24/7 on 2 bands, just packet forwarding. At 80 meters at night, we're getting up to 1250 bits per second transfer rate. So messages that would take minutes kind of take seconds with Vera. And I know that we'll get into the Vera thing later. I know there's some issues with that, and I get it, but it works nevertheless. How we're doing it? We're doing everything's NVIS. We don't think that it's efficient for me to have a direct link from Pennsylvania to Florida. We think that, or even to Maine, we're trying to keep it within 20 to 400 miles is a good distance. Finding out that 200 is probably a better distance, and just leapfrog the messages down the line is much more efficient than trying to make any kind of long distance connects, although it works and it has happened. But the principle is NVIS and getting the job done. So what that looks like, well, there's Jeff, we put this in here to talk about antennas. There's some good information in here about what you should use for NVIS, and some good documentation here at this link. So I will share this with everybody a little bit later.
Let me just interject for a second. NVIS is not a particular antenna. What it is it's an antenna that you didn't set up well for DX, meaning that your antenna is typically less than a quarter wavelength off the ground. So your takeoff angle on HF goes straight up and comes and just, it's like taking a water hose, spraying it on the ceiling. You get a cone of water, but it's a small limited circle, and typically 200 to 400 miles. And because of that, that's also where you receive or don't receive a lot of interfering signals. So that's when we talk about NVIS, it makes good regional RF sense. And it can be any antenna, but you really want it less than a quarter wave off the ground so that the takeoff angle kind of goes straight up and just give you that 200 to 400 mile radius. And it can be any antenna. Just needs to be installed, not for good DX. Go ahead, Glenn. Didn't mean to stop
Okay.
you.
So this is the hub and spoke principle that we're all operating on or trying to operate on. And this is just my node here in Pennsylvania and how I'm kind of set up and where I'm forwarding to currently.
Can I interrupt for just a second for a question?
Go ahead, Don.
The antenna, is that a quarter wave at the lowest operating frequency?
Yeah, well, yes.
Thank you.
Close enough. It's quarter wave for the band, really. It doesn't need to be that precise.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
You're welcome.
So I have UHF or VHF user links 145.090, and I also offer Vera FM interconnect on 145.67. We have a very robust Vera FM network here in Chester County, Pennsylvania, and two digipeaters, two high-profile digipeaters, and a third one coming, and that works pretty well. Ron NY3J uses that quite a bit and can get in and has full access to the BBS and the node from Vera FM. But the principle here is the HF. So how we're doing it is, if you can look down here in the lower left corner, we're on 40 meters in the daytime. We're positioned 1500, as most of the digital stuff is. We're running a bandwidth of 500, and we've added RDOT, which is what we're kind of here to talk about as well. We're setting up at 1,000 max, but I'm finding out that most of the time it's about 500, and RDOT's very picky about band conditions. So you never know what kind of connection you're going to get or rate you're going to achieve, but it works pretty well. And then it over to the right in the blue, we go to 80 meters at night, and this is a 24/7 link. Everything's automated. The radio changes frequency, does all the stuff all by itself. So you can see I'm connected to Jeff, Vera FM. I'm sorry, HF, and Jeff's 179 miles from me to the north. You can see Matt, K1 VSC up here. He doesn't have his HF up right now, but we were connected. And believe it or not, Matt and I had a better connection than Matt and Jeff had. So that was working pretty well. Greg here is not too far from me. Now he's a Linux user. He's tried Vera, he's had it working, but it's very unstable. So he has some real interest in the RDOT option because of the Linux. This is where it kind of all started for me is Brian down here in Delaware, who's 21 miles from me. And we have a very good connection, and it works really well. And then of course, David's on here, K4 or KN4 LQN, who's 208 miles from me down in Virginia. And he has a very interesting setup down there, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. So that's kind of how the hub and spoke, we think it should work. I do have a connection out here to Wisconsin, and that we can make it connect at night on 80 meters, but it's not real good. We do more AXIP than we do Vera, but it'll work when the conditions are right. But that's a stretch, and it's not something that I would recommend. He just wanted to test and try, and so we do, but it's not really an ideal link for sure. In the
Glenn, a
grand scheme of
question.
NBIS. Yeah.
You say full-size G5 RV. Is
Yep.
that the 102 foot, or is it the 204 foot?
It's actually 130 something end to end with ladder line. And it's I have it inverted, so I got a 75-foot tower here.
It's
and I got the-
130 feet End to
Yeah,
end?
I think it's 130, maybe it's 102. I can't remember. It's been up there so long, I forget.
Okay, because
It's not the 160, I can tell you that.
all right, yeah, the
It's not
G5
the
RV
junior.
comes in two lengths, 102 or 204.
Yeah, it's not 200.
Okay, so it's the 102. All right, thank you.
Yep. And I have the center up at 65 feet on my tower. And then it's inverted down to 25 feet on each end at the legs, and it's a phenomenal antenna.
Okay,
I
I have
nothing, and it does well for this setup. So
Glenn, another question.
sure.
Glenn, this is Mark N2MH. Is W9IKU still around?
Well, I haven't talked to him for a while. I know he's busy with church stuff, but I don't know what his situation is. I've been meaning to send him an email and haven't.
Yeah, because I spoke to him some months back, and he was indicating that he was taking his BBS off the air. So
Yeah,
you
he
may
didn't
want to.
have a lot of end user stuff going on, so he may have done that by
Yeah,
now.
yeah. I haven't seen him in a long time. You may ask us on your own to see what he's up to.
Yeah, I gotta send him an email. So this link is a link that I put together that I want to show you kind of how this looks like on the map. It kind of shows what's going on in the region and where we're connected and what we're covering right now. So I'm here.
Yeah, we're only seeing.
It didn't bring the link up?
No, because it's probably on a different screen. You're probably just sharing the screen now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably.
You're gonna have to stop sharing and then share.
Yeah, I'm not gonna mess with it. It's just the Google's map that kind of shows. But the interesting part about the hub and spoke is if you could see what's going on down in Virginia. David's got pretty interesting setup going on down there. I don't know. He's got 12 or 14 stations down there that link into, I guess, the EOC, and maybe he can elaborate on that with VHF. And then he and I are connected, and I don't think he has internet on his hub, and we're connected with Vera HF, and I believe most all his traffic getting out of Virginia is coming through BPQ and our link, and it works really well. So his hub and spoke setup down there is really interesting, and he's probably got the most stations that I've been connected with, and traffic moving in and out. So it's pretty interesting. David, you got anything you want to add to that? Are you here?
Yeah, you described it. Yeah, we have a BPQ BBS with no internet at the state EOC, and it acts as a local VHF hub. And since it has no internet, it's not connected for WinLink or anything. And then my station at home forwards mail back and forth over VARA FM, and then connect in with the VARA HF. And we've got a bunch of active stations around. I'm always trying to convince more people to set up their own nodes and BBSs. And we currently have a station that's online from 90 miles away that has a good line of sight that I think maybe will coming on and we'll stretch it out a little bit. At this time of year, of course, you get some false positives where you hear a lot of packet activity, but that one hopefully will be able to survive once we go out of the favorable VHF conditions this time of year.
Glenn, can you jump back to your spider diagram there? So I want to point out what Glenn has done here is that his link to KP3FT in New York links into the EastNet VHF UHF packet network that goes basically from Albany to Rochester, New York. The KA1VSC link links into the Connecticut, Massachusetts part of the network that's up there. The link, so now his HF hub is now linked at least 3 different regionally, well, 4, because you've got the stuff for Brian down in Delaware, and I don't know what the stuff is in New Jersey. but this is now linked regional networks that have a good terrestrial coverage of full-time networks. And now all these BBSs can route and move traffic all over without the internet. This is a very important concept that I really hope everybody, gets their mind around, because it does not rely on building a BPQ node with one packet TNC and one internet connection. That doesn't make a packet network. What Glenn's doing, what everybody in their different separate regions are doing, this builds a network. And it's independent, not that the internet is bad and not that we don't use the internet, but if the internet has an outage, this still has message survivability. So, all right, go back to you, Glenn. I'm sorry.
Quick
That's all
question.
right. Yep, go ahead.
Is your primary forwarding through the RF and then you're using internet as a backup? So it's everything goes RF unless it fails, like, a couple tries, it fails and then it reverts, or I might have missed that part. Sorry, the kiddo screaming. I apologize.
Yeah, I do have some failover to AXIP. But Jeff doesn't have the internet and David down in Virginia doesn't. So our only connectivity is HF. So there's no backup there, but everybody else has an IP backup, and I'm dropping links, AXIP links down to just a few because I've come up on Arden, and I'm actually forwarding 4 to Matt KA1 VSC. Since we don't have an HF, we're actually forwarding over Arden. Chuck, who's on here, and CAQ, and a few others are using Arden. So, I mean, it's still over the internet technically, but we have a private tunnel and it works very well.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem. So the two things we're doing, and I just want to, come back to the fact we are using Vera HF, but this is not WinLink. There is RMS connectivity in BPQ, and we do use it some, but we're not doing WinLink here. It's all AX25 over using Vera HF. The transfer speeds are really good. There's a little mistake there in that slide. It's really good. We do very well. It is band, it's signal to noise like everything else. And the better the signal to noise, the better rates we get. But even through all the sun activity, the past few weeks, Vera has managed to continue to work. The speeds were reduced, but it still continued to work right through all the sun issues and the poor band conditions, and that's really the beauty of Vera being being able to cut through the noise.
Stop right there, because you just made a very, very important point. Everybody says, well, sometimes HF goes dead and all that stuff. Well, some of these new digital modes, they're amazing. And you just said that through all that sunspot activity, when the bands were dead, so to speak, you were still moving traffic, even though it was a reduced capacity and speed.
Correct.
I want to say that again, because that's an amazing point. That is a fantastic point. Okay, sorry. Just wanted to.
Yep.
Glenn, just one point to add to that. The reason why this does work are twofold. One, using digital sound card software, so it's able to hear below the noise floor. Plus 2, the modem codec uses a forward error correction.
It does. It does. And and the other thing that we like about it is that, so we're operating the way we're set up. We're operating in the automatic unattended section of the bands, because we're not here all the time. So that's the reason for the 500, the bandwidth of 500, and where we are in some of the odd frequency, just to get us in the window. and try to get us away from some of the bigger Vera stuff. But, you know, it's kind of frustrating sometimes because, you know, we're limited to where we can be based off our situation, yet all these WinLink gateways that are running on HF can be just about anywhere they want to be, and they jump right on top of us. But
So-
Vera's amazing
So
in
that's
the
another key point that I would like to point out, Glenn.
go
You
ahead.
guys are doing this where you've got contention for the airtime, and yet you're still effective. So pay attention to
Yep.
how they're doing this because it's working. Because you're not the only ones on the frequency, not the only ones on the channel. They're contending with other users and still able to be effective. Thank you.
Yeah, the 500 is narrow enough, and in the NVIS situation, we can still connect and make our transmission. And since we're automatic unattended, we don't feel like that we're interfering with somebody else's signal because we're where we need to be, operating the way we're supposed to be operating, and it still works. Does it slow things down a little bit? Sure, but again, the traffic gets through. There's no messages that we don't get through. So we just don't have trouble. It works pretty well. One of the problems that every can be a bone of contention for people is the one-time license fee for Vera. I get it. It's not open source. I get it. The license fees, I don't know, $69 or something, and it's a one-time thing, and you can use it anywhere you want based on your call sign. So it's not like you have to have it for every instance you want to run of it, as long as you're using your call sign. It does work. It definitely works best on Windows. That's where it was designed to operate, and I get that too. But to say that, I run all my 7300, all my Vera, all the software and the modems are running off a Windows computer down there. But it's all being controlled by BPQ, Pi BPQ, Linux from a Raspberry Pi. So the Raspberry Pi is telling Windows what to do. So it actually, so I guess I'm a hybrid, if you will, but Linux is the boss and Windows does what it's told in my situation. So Vera can work and has worked on Linux, but it's a difficult situation. And Greg, I was telling you about that to my east, he finally shut it down because every time it would glitch or do something, it would just lock up. And if he wasn't there to fix it, it took his whole board and made a mess out of it. So he's definitely interested in the RDOP. Speaking of RDOP again, you know, it's a RDOP you see when you open your drop down windows in WinLink as a mode. We're not doing, it's not WinLink we're doing. We're taking it and trying to adapt it here to give some other folks a way to get in and to take advantage of the backbone and what we're trying to do and get some people linked together. So the testing that we've done in the last week or so is, you know, it's definitely slower than Vera HF. But it's faster than 300 baud AX25. But it's really susceptible to signal to noise, and it can slow down quite a bit, but it gets there and it's working, and we're running them on top of each other. So, you know, you can either do a Vera Connect or an RDOP Connect here, and it's 1500, same frequencies, everything's the same. It just depends on your mode, on which mode answers here. So sharing the same radio, the same sound card, the same everything, but it works pretty good. One of the beauties and the links guys will like it is open source, especially the latest version that's out. It will operate on both Windows and Linux. Obviously, no license. And right now, the stations that are up is myself, and then Jeff in New York, and Dave in Virginia. And like I say, it works, but Vera's still better. So Vera will probably be our main option. This is a links page that you'll see where you can get RDOP. BPQ has one that John had adopted for BPQ some time ago. It's always been an option for BPQ. And then there's another Windows-based version. And then this new one that's out is here that you can see that Jeff sent this out the other day, that is all command line and works on both Windows and Linux. It has a GUI web-based screen, so you can go in and see what it's doing from the command line. You just go to your web browser and type in the local address with this port number of 8514, and it comes up very nicely on the screen. So this is the one that we're kind of testing back and forth with. You do have to understand the command line. Like for my 7300, I have to use the hex key for the transmit and the unkey in the command line itself. It took a while to get all that squared away, but once you get it up and going, it works pretty well. So I will share this with everybody as well in these links.
Can you go into, before you finish up, can you talk about how you schedule your BBS forwarding, how you limit your forwarding partners, how you've regionalized that? Because I think that's just as important as the technology that works, because you guys are on busy HF channels where you're contending with other WinLink gateways and things like that. And I think your scheduling of your email and how you're doing all that is just as important as the technology you just talked about to keeping effective throughput.
Yeah, so I come back to all the scheduling and all the frequency changes, and all of those things are handled in the BPQ config file, in the port configuration for Vera HF. So everything's in there, and that does all the frequency change and all that. So again, the Raspberry Pi using Winmore control as the interface, tells the radio, what frequency to be on, what filter size I want, keeps me in the USB data mode, and that's all taken care of. But then in BPQ, in the forwarding portion of BPQ, that's where I set limits. There are certain times of the day that I don't transmit, when I know that it's just too slow, and it's really just a matter of taking the duty cycle off the radio more than it is. We could get the messages through, but I figure I'm a little better at shutting that off, giving the radio a chance for a little better condition, and then pass the traffic. And that's all scheduled in by partner in BPQ. And there's certain times of day that we'll slow it down or whatever we need to do, but that's all done in the forwarding by partner. So I have it set up because I'm kind of the hub for the group, just purely because of my location. So I have timing all set so that I'm not trying to send to two people at one time. I kind of have the schedule is, most of the messages come in and they go to Jeff first, because I know that he's going to get it. He's my best connection by far all the time. So he gets the messages first. And then I go to Brian in Delaware, and then down to David in Virginia. And that's all done again by time in BPQ forwarding. And then I've seen times where, because Jeff's got a link, he's got a Vera HF link to, and I can't think of his call off the top of my head, K1 something, just north of him. And I've seen him sending traffic to him while I'm sending traffic to David, and they both seem to go, and we're all on the same frequency. So
he's up in Little Falls. The thing is you're saying partners, because for the people that get on packet, they just think they want to have traffic to and from everywhere, and they need to control traffic. So guys are saying, hey, anybody got a link that they want to join with me out on the West Coast, or over in, Europe or anything like that. And I really want to get that concept and idea out of the people who are operating their own BBS and thinking they need to link to everybody all over the planet, because that doesn't work, especially on HF. You need to just have your partners be geographically on the 4 cardinal points on your compass, so you can send stuff west, east, north, and south, and that's basically what you've done. And you don't need to link to everybody else all over the planet. And that's a misconception that a lot of people, because they're used to doing things on the internet, and the internet's a much more unlimited resource than the limited stuff that you've got, especially on the HF frequencies. And that's a concept I think we have lost to a lot of people that didn't have to suffer through the days of the 90s and limited network capacity.
Yeah, and you really have to be careful when, over the HF and the way we're doing it. You have to make sure that you have your HA routes squared away, and you have things going in the right direction. I've learned by doing the packet net for the last year or so that I watch some of these messages, especially the bulletins when they come in, and I look at every one of them, and it's amazing the routes that some of these messages take to get into the system, and including Europe or South America or all over the place when it's a US started message, and it has to leave the country to get back. It's just amazing. And that's part of the problem with internet, in my mind, is that you can link to everybody everywhere, but if you don't set your system up correctly, and believe me, mine's not correct in all the time either, and every time I see a problem I try to go in and fix it. But when you're just on the internet and you get the thing running right out of the box, it's a problem. So we try to curtail that on the EHF side. And when these messages come in, and if they're, if it's just a standard, flood bulletin, we'll move them. But for personal or directed stuff, you really have to work on the, having your partner and who can handle what messages, and that takes a little time, but we've gotten there. We're doing pretty well. I think Mark sent a message the other day that kind of got tangled up somewhere. He was doing some testing, and then Charles and I had I guess Chuck sent an NT message, and that got tangled up a little bit, but got fixed getting to Charles, but it got straightened out and ended up getting to Ray in Maryland, where it was intended to go. So when you see those problems, we fix them, and that typically doesn't happen again. So the setup is huge, and having a partner, coordinating with that partner, and understanding what they want and what they can do with it once they get it is huge to making the HF side of this work. Or otherwise, it's just wasting a lot of airspace and a lot of radio time, and doing not much at all. So,
Clem, a question.
Yes, sir.
Is this RDOP aware of the push-to-talk functionality on a CM108 chip?
I can't answer that. I'm assuming it is. It seems to, it's all in how you schedule or how you write the command line. And once it finds your radio ports, I can't say for sure. I'm a 7300 user, and then I have a Kenwood TS2000 that I use as well, and it does fine on both of those. But the difficult part for the ICOM is that you have to use the hex code on the command line for it to do the push to talk.
Okay, no, this doesn't use any type of root control at all. The CM108 or 119 type of audio chip.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, I misunderstood what you were asking.
Has a number of GPIO ports, and one of them can be set up as push to talk. Does RDOP know how to do that?
It does. There's a section in there where it talks about using that chip and which pin it's using and how to address it.
Okay, thank you.
It is in the documentation.
Awesome.
So I don't take up any more time here. So we have this commitment, we have these agreements, and what we really, want people to think about is, having getting a regional backbone station going and coordinate as a region, decide who that person wants to be, and that they're going to make the commitment to sacrificing a radio and an antenna to it. And then, the rest of the users connect to him, do all your forwarding through that hub, and then the hub sends it down to the next hub. You don't need everybody being a hub. We don't need everybody on the frequency. It really needs to be a coordinated effort by region. Within the 20 to 200 mile range is really the ideal. 200 to 400 is stretching it, even for NVIS. So we want, that's what we think needs to happen. And we've proved that it works. And it takes coordination, just like everything else, like all the problems that, that Charles is having with all the 44 stuff right now. It's just a coordination, and you got to get it right. The other thing that I want to do is there's always been the stuff that, I appreciate the traditional AX25 and the traditional packet, and I understand where it came from, because I was part of that back in the late 80s and 90s. And, we're not taking away from that. If we want packet to be, have a place in the modern communications again, the way it ought to, because it really does bring a lot to the table, then we have to keep up. And, everybody's biggest complaint about packet, oh, it's too slow. Well, it's not. And now we can even move it a lot faster using the newer technology. But at the end of the day, the message starts out as AX25. It ends up as AX25. We're at its endpoint. And whatever happens to it in between, to get from A to B is a plus, and the faster it can do it, the better. And no internet. So we are not trying to take away from AX25 at all. All these different systems that everybody said they're using in their different areas, they can all communicate with one another. Some of them take a little more configuration than others, but they all can go back and forth with one another, and it's all traditional AX25 at the beginning and at the other end. So again, we, I use WinLink. We use WinLink here in Chester County, but we use it as a post office service. We're not on the internet. We don't use the traditional WinLink CMS servers. We have our own server, and we use it on our Vera HF or FM network here. And we like the forms, and we like the things that WinLink brings to the table. And if we need to connect to the outside, then we use one of the county traditional gateways over FM to get the messages in and out. But packet was kind of the first, other than CW back in the day. It was the first widely used stuff, and we think that there's still a role for packet, but it needs a job. It needs something to do. And I know RRI, I've joined that now and become a member there, and hoping to be able to pass some of that traffic better. We have in the interest of what's going on with WinLink and everything, we've created some HTML to text forms. There's a handful of them, thanks to David again down in Virginia, where you can open the form, fill it out in your web browser, and then just do a quick copy and paste it into a packet message and send it as the form data. We thought that having that HTML capability would give people a better feel for everything else that's going on. So we've done that, and try to incorporate that into the packet net. So, we're just trying to, I believe in my heart that packet, yeah, we can't send all the big pictures and all the fancy stuff, but we can get the text, and we can get the gist of the message through. as
Well,
good
you-
as or better than anybody else. So that's what we're trying to do. And we're trying to, assist everybody and trying to get them on board. So
Well, that's a
I
great.
think that's all I have. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, that's a great segue. And in reality, a lot of this information exchange can be, well, the IT world will say it's just XML data, meaning the GUIs and stuff can rely on the local or reside on the local stations, and the actual information that needs to transit the network by whatever method, by whatever BBS, by whatever software is really not that data intensive. And that's what you guys are starting to address. So that's fantastic. And of course, you just made a beautiful segue into our next segment. Glenn, I can't thank you enough for making this presentation and let me interrupt you because I can't shut up for anything. So, but I am going to shut up long enough because we're going long enough that I would like to turn it over to Jim and let you talk about the Radio Relay International. What Glenn just talked about being one of the customers on the network and the purposes and the reason for being there. They are an important customer on the network. So Jim, KY2D, do you want to take it over and you got your time to do it?
Sure, I sure do. Thanks. And I first want to compliment both of you for your comments on the human side of this. We so often as hams talk about the technology and how cool the technology is. People think, wow, as you pointed out, Brian, let's get some more links, without realizing that as soon as an operator puts a second link into their system, they have now become a node sysop without at all understanding the responsibilities of what that means about route quality, about making sure that their system doesn't have anything stranded there, making sure that messages that get hung up are manually processed, even if that means doing something else with those messages. So I fear that a lot of newcomers to BPQ search for all these links and kind of collect map statements and mapped links like people collect QSL cards. It's how many DXCC countries can I have a link with? And that totally violates what both of you are talking about the responsibilities of node operators for ensuring the traffic goes through. And from the RI perspective, we are very clear on what a node is versus what a digital traffic station is. A digital traffic station connects to a node, and we know what node they're going to connect to. We do have redundant paths. The sysops know how to get to each other with alternate ways. We use different frequencies. We primarily use HF, just as he just explained, using Pactor. Most of the hub stations are now capable of Pactor 4 since that became legal a few months ago. But many of the individual stations are using VARA because of its low cost and ease to construct. So in a very similar way to what you just heard, the digital traffic system is set up in a hierarchical method. So each region, region 1, region 2, and so on, are set up with hubs, and then they're coordinated into an eastern, a central, and a western area in a hierarchical mode. Although that hierarchy isn't strictly enforced, it's not purely locked down, every hub operator has the ability to route directly to another hub without going through the hierarchy. And all this is about making sure that when the emergencies happen, when links go down, when stations go down, that we have ways to get around it. So that's basically what's happening. One of the new things just recently with RRI, again, we're worried about radiograms, but radiograms are just another type of traffic. We've been talking about personal messages and bulletins in the previous presentation. Radiograms are another form of what the traffic is. And in our case, we're worried about what happens to the message after it leaves the digital system, because many of these systems are addressed to non-hams or to emergency agencies. And we've just created a new class of radiogram called a certified radiogram. And the digital network is being configured such that those radiograms will only be picked up off the digital network by what we're calling a certified radio operator, and that requires some training classes and to basically be appointed as a certified radio operator for a particular area. And that is an attempt to help us deal with the last mile problem of messages just getting stranded somewhere. It goes off either digitally to another bulletin board where nobody picks it up, or it goes to an operator who says, well, that was kind of cool to take this message, but it's a pain to deliver it, so it goes in the trash can or sits on the desk. And that causes, at least in terms of the national traffic system, it causes an embarrassment for the operators. I didn't know you were going to ask me to present, so that this is far from a presentation, but I'd be happy, Brian, to answer any questions or take this in any other direction you want.
No, I think you're covering things well, and I think this is all dovetailing, you know, explaining that things do have to have a level of management, that you can't just jump in and want to participate and, like you said, collect links, map statements on a BBQ node like you do QSL cards. And we're starting to educate. We're educating a huge group of people about this today. And the problem is we've also got to document this stuff and then get it on the internet, because people are just starting up, no fault of their own. They're doing Google searches and finding documentations, but there isn't good documentation and widespread dissemination of that talks about the concepts that you guys are talking about. And so we've got to evangelize about that, and we've got to be able to get that out there so that, we can get that noise and the ability to start correcting people and Elmering people, so to speak. So
I agree. And the other thing we're doing with some of these higher level hub stations, in my case, as the Eastern Area hub, a lot of the other hubs will take messages they don't know what to do with and automatically forward them to my hub. I have more connections, I have more routing tables, and Mark and to MH mentioned a couple minutes ago that some of his messages has had crazy routing, including one that went to Maine. Well, Mark, I saw that message and I talked to the operator who sent it, and it was one of those ones that he got that message and said, I have no idea what to do with this. And his default route is send anything I don't understand to KY2D. So that's how it got to Maine. But that was a good thing, because since it got to Maine, it didn't sit on his system and time out after 30 days and get deleted.
Yeah, and it got to Maine twice. Apparently, you're running two systems up there that talk to each other.
Yeah, I do have a VHF system that also sits on 44net, and I have an HF station, and one's on, as somebody else mentioned earlier, one's on Windows. The HF system's on Windows. The VHF and 44net system is on a Raspberry Pi, and they are connected to each other just internally on the wireless LAN here in the home.
Can I interject something here, Brian?
Go ahead, Glenn.
Yeah, because I have to get to work, but there was an email a month or so ago, and I think Steve Stroh picked up on it as well. And you were talking about sysops and some of the difficulties with Linux and getting some of these systems running if you're not well versed in that world. And I kind of look at it kind of in another direction, because we're setting up and we're moving this traffic, but without end users to pick it up and see it, these guys are setting up these bulletin boards and then nobody uses them, and then they get frustrated, and it's hurting us. And I've been looking at how do we educate some of the ham radio guys, and a very easy way for them to get on is with easy term and sound modem or alike, and don't become a sysop. Get end users, get on, because those are the guys that'll get the bug and then decide to branch out and do it right. And I think we're talking at a sysop level here today, but there's a whole other part of this that needs to be addressed if we really want to make this work at the end of the day. So I got about 5 more minutes and then I got to get out the door. So I appreciate you letting me speak here today. And everybody's doing a great job, and thank you very much.
That's a good point, Glenn. There was a message on the chat. They were asking, can you run a Vera HF or RDOP over top of standard AX 25300 baud HF on the same setup?
Yes.
You will work?
Yeah, all we were doing is we took AX25 because it gives you the ability to move. We were moving it down to 1,000 and keeping it just outside of the Vera, keeping it outside of Vera at 1,500. That's the only thing we did different. But they don't run, you can only be doing one station, can only do one at a time.
Right.
Because it's all on one radio, but they'll all work one or the other depending on which one gets connected to.
Right, so the point being is that they don't need a separate HF radio, a separate modem, anything.
No.
It all
No.
coexist, and it just depends on who connects with what
Yep.
technology. That's awesome. To your other point about getting users in, one of the programs that works really well to do stuff like that, and especially interacts with bulletin boards well, is the Outpost software. Now, that's a Windows software, but Outpost is a great one that we would have to get to be Elmer's with, but to get end users on there, and it can automatically check your bulletin board and pull certain message types, and it works great with RRI stuff.
Yeah, I run that here too, and it does have a bit of challenges to getting it, especially getting it connected in the back end where we're easy term for a brand new guy, so darn easy. But I like Outpost. I run it here. Most of my traffic that I pass out for the packet net and everything all comes from Outpost.
The issue with Outpost, though, is it does not natively support the VARA software modem, or at
Right.
least I can't find a version that does.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that it's going to do the HF stuff. What I'm saying is what Glenn's saying is that we need to get users on the network at the local.
Yes.
Which
Yeah,
who would be
at
connected to the
AX25 level.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
That's what we're talking about. How
Okay.
you've got we do have at least one good GUI interface that would let you easily manage all the BBS traffic and things like that, because you were, you would allow yourself not to have to listen to all the other, earthquake messages and all that stuff. You can filter that stuff down, and most of, whether it's JNOS, whether it's BPQ, whether it's FBB, you can talk to all of those systems. And not to be a sysop, Jim, we're not talking about that.
Right.
The end users. So, yes, Eric, Outpost is a software package. There is a group, I think it's Orange County, California, Santa Clara County, California uses extensively, and they have a full races training program that uses the Outpost, and they've got good teaching methods and good documents that you can reference their system to see how they implement it on bulletin boards. So, Glenn, if you could watch the chat, their messages are coming in quick, and I can't keep up with it. But this is freaking great discussion, guys, and everybody's look at how many people we've got here, and look how many people got an interest. So this is fantastic.
Hey, Brian, I got a question for KY2D.
Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, Jim, as a BBS operator, how do I get traffic that's addressed to NTS something into RRI?
Again, we have gateways. N2NOV is one. But it gets it's a question of routing. The digital traffic network addressing scheme is NTS : zip code @ NTS XX, where XX is either the 2-letter state or the 2-letter Canadian province code. So you would address to me, for example, NTS : 04543 at NTS-ME, which is Maine. Now, many of the JNOS systems, including N2NOV, understand that. And then in Charles's case, he routes all that to my system, which in turn goes wherever it needs to go.
Well, not quite all of it goes to your system, Jim.
Well, oh yes, that's right. You have some other. I understand. Well, it started that way, Charles, but
Yes, it
you're
did.
right. Now you've got more people participating, and you've got the ability to send me only things that are relevant to come this way, and that's what we want.
The education is happening, and you know what? EastNet has become the conduit to get this information out. And, you know, you guys are chatting right now, and you guys are gathering information. You all attended this quarterly meeting to learn about the RDOP. We've been talking about the Vera HF. We've been talking about BBSs. Charles has always evangelized hierarchical routing and things like that. And we're starting to beat I've got BPQ. I want to get on the internet and connect to every country I can and have a nodes list on a NetROM that's got 300 connectable nodes. We're getting away from that finally.
I'd like to continue on with Jim, if I may.
Go ahead. Sorry, Mark.
Okay, Jim. Okay, all well and good that Charles is can get to you, but is there a list somewhere so that people around the country can figure out who they have to get to for their own local experience?
No. There's not, and just to pick up on some things that are going on in the text fields here too, the NTS colon prefix is only required depending on your origination software. That's required in WinLink, otherwise it's parsed as a WinLink address. So if you're already in JNOS or a system other than WinLink, you don't need to prefix the NTS colon. It's just zip at NTSXX. But no, we do not currently have a list, Mark. At least I don't have a list. Maybe Charles knows some other stations that have that.
That sounds like an area of improvement, possibly, that we could work on. I mean, the infrastructure may be there, but the dissemination and the education of it probably needs to have a little more effort put into it. But you bring up a good point, and it's a good question, Mark. And Jim, obviously, you know, your input is
sure
so valuable in this. But I like the fact that we're having this conversation at this point in the development of EastNet and the participation in the people that come to these calls. This is so exciting. This is awesome. The chat that's screaming by right now too is also great information. All right. I need to go back to our agenda and make sure I'm not missing everything, because I'm getting
All right. Well, while you go look at your agenda, Brian, let me just tack on a little bit more of the RRI and TS stuff. In answer to the question about where would you drop off a message, a properly addressed message and properly formatted, any BBS should know where to send it. And this goes back to the quote unquote evangelizing of proper SysOp knowledge and activity, is that you should know who your partners are. So if your forwarding partner, you know, has links to other places, and you know what they are, then you know which forwarding partner to use to move something out. So brought up in the chat field, somebody's asking about, you know, where would I send this to Ohio? Well, I already know who my forwarding partners are that service Ohio. So if I'm not sending it directly through a hub, whether it's Region 2 hub since I'm in New York City, or directly to Jim, I know who the hub is for Ohio. And it just so happens that he is also one of my forwarding partners. So I will send that message going to NTSOH, drop it off at KB8UVN, and he distributes it to the traffic nets that are there in Ohio.
And to that point, Charles, it's not like you've got to set up your forwarding partners for RRI at that point.
No, by already knowing who's who and what they can do, or at least get to the nearest point. So if I don't know who the hub is for the 9 call district, Well, I do know somebody who is one of my voting partners out there, K5GAT, and he could stick it into the right voting BBS that can handle that.
Right. Your point being that every BBS, you should have a forwarding partner, not who wants to set you a map statement for your BPQ. You want to have a north partner, a south partner, an east and a west, so that your stuff just gets forwarded. If it's not meant for you, it goes to somebody in the right direction. And if everybody is set up like that, the network works. However, if you're set up to link to everybody that you possibly can because you just want a big nodes list on your BPQ and you're using the internet, that's what breaks the system.
Especially when that nodes list is 800 stations and that's being broadcast out every so often. That bogs down any system, RF or even internet links.
And they all have really high quality. So,
oh, please.
So that's a whole nother topic.
I wrote a whole document about
I
that
know
years ago.
But let me just point out that I think we're spending too much thought here on injecting RRI messages into a destination hub. You don't, if you have a message for California addressed to something at NTSCA, well, you don't really need to worry about how to get it to California. Let the RRI network do that. Get it to your closest regional hub, or if you're in the eastern third of the US, get it to me, and then I have the high-speed Factor 4 links to other HF regions of the country. So it's the individual packet sysop doesn't need to worry about how to route this stuff. You just want to get it in the closest point into the RRI network.
Well, they're not actually putting it in the RRI network, Jim. That's the point I'm making. They're getting the hierarchical network, and RRI type messages are just another type of message. But
well, I agree.
As a BBS, if you've got your north, south, east, and west partners, and we're all knowing how to, okay, RRI stuff is in their software, it just handles it. That's the point. You don't have to be to an RRI gateway. You just need to get it to somebody. You need to get it out of your system, headed it in, forward it in the right regional direction.
Yeah, with all due respect, though, I think for formal radiograms addressed to ZIP at NTS state that you have a better chance of getting it cross-country reliably and speedily by putting it into the nearest RRI hub.
Understood. Because they're going to be smarter and have an east, west, north, and south gateway.
And all the hubs are managed by serious sysops. And so it's not going to get, halfway across the country and stall somewhere because a system is down. I mean, the sysops check their systems multiple times a day in the RRI network.
Yes.
That's not saying it's better. It's just different. It is, and it's intended for a different purpose. It's intended for getting radiograms specifically, reliably, and as quickly as possible to someplace. We're not pushing personal messages. You can, but it's rare that a personal message goes through the RRI network, and we certainly are not sending bulletins through the RRI network.
But then the point to Mark's question is that are we evangelizing the RRI gateways so that people can know about them to make sure that they've got them in the partners?
And I'd say no, we aren't, and we need to fix that.
Okay, great. But so Mark, you brought up a great point, a great question. And that's the education that we're doing here through EastNet. So fantastic.
Yeah, that particular question has been bothering me for a while now.
Well, then we'll.
And I had no way to guess that Charles was the man for me.
Sorry, I wear many hats.
But you know what? Because we're talking about it, it's going to get addressed, and I'm sure RRI is going to put that in their documentation. I'm sure Charles will put it on some of his repositories for documentation. And you know what? It'll eventually get out to the collective and the board called search engines, and we'll get people educated.
And what I put in the chat a little while ago, somebody asked for a link.
Yes, that was
all my documentation is at hamgate.ampr.org. Hamgate.ampr.org can be reached from the public internet or from the 44net.
I love it. I love it, folks.
The
So
front
we-
page has descriptions of what we're doing with the ham gates in the different states, but there's a link for documents at the top of the page.
Okay, so now we've done the agenda that I published. I forgot to put the ARDC stuff, which is related to ham gates and 44net. Charles, you want
Wow.
the?
I have a
Please
narrow
wait.
window to deal with this, so
So then keep it on point then. Don't bitch.
I will keep it on point, but there's a lot here, and I've got like about 10-15 minute window I can deal with this. Other than that, send me email n2nov@n2nov.net. Okay, let's get a little history lesson going here. ARDC is the foundation that was set up, especially after the selling of 1/4 of the 44 net space to Amazon Web Services, and it brought in $150 million. So ARDC is now a foundation, and by law, they have to disperse X amount of % of dollars every year. They've put together a team of people, especially after Brian Cantor passed away. These people have come to the forefront, but they are, in my experience, and I'm turning 65 this year, but my experience between Wall Street and the corporate world and government world, these people don't have the experience to really run things properly. They don't know how to communicate. And hence, when their brainiacs decided that they were going to upgrade the Amper portal, which is how you request IP addresses, you have DNS records set up, and BGP request. When they decided to switch things over, they did not include all the regional coordinators ahead of time. They did not tell anybody the day they were switching over, and it just happened and everything broke at once. Here we are 2 months later, we're still dealing with the aftermath. Having conversations with them either privately or in a regional coordinator Zoom session, they keep apologizing. Oh yeah, we did something wrong, but they haven't fixed it yet. And if you try to bring it up, they'll either poo-poo it or give you some non-answer, incomplete answer, or not even answer you at all. So that's what we're dealing with on the regional side. And a lot of you who do have or want 44 net allocations, you're finding it a little difficult. I agree. It is frustrating. And if they got to hate me for it, fine, hate me for it. I'm going to keep talking about this on every single mailing list that's out there. They need to straighten out their act because they're hurting everybody else.
Yeah, and let me amplify that a little bit. Even though you tell them what they have to do, which they don't like you telling them what to do, they still have no clue on how to do something.
Exactly.
On how to, they have absolutely no clue. They have no idea what you're talking about. And Charles is not the only one to see that. I saw this when talking to this woman, the executive director at a ham fest. She had absolutely no clue as to what I was talking about. And until that changes, we're going to have this situation.
So we're going to keep plugging
So
away.
go to the positive. Remind people about ham
I know,
gates,
and I'm getting to that.
rear guard, and all that stuff.
Right. See, the problem is we've got people coming to us because they.
This is getting close to winding up. I'm gonna go down to the post office, see if I can get your box,
Jim, can you
whatever
mute?
it is.
Okay,
Probably
Jim,
another
he's talking on
15
his phone.
minutes.
Okay,
If you
Jim,
want
no
to
problem.
go, and if it's not raining.
No problem. Okay, so where the frustration is coming is we get people who are watching YouTube videos or listen to a presentation where the ARDC folks have been telling them, hey, 44net is great. You can link up all sorts of stuff. Sign up here. But they're not ready for prime time. And it falls on us, the regional coordinators, to try to mentor and coach people as we're going forward. So that's why we've got 2 participants on the session today, Greg over in Nantucket, and we got Brian up in Maine. They were told, get a 44net, get a VPN, and you could link all this stuff together. And they're trying to run various digital repeaters. Am I correct, guys? That's the gist of everything you're trying to do?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to do digital links to RF repeaters here in Nantucket, K1UH.
Okay, so that does work. However, what the VPN that we are running on the ham gates is designed for 44net. And that is to protect you, the end user, at the far end. So each of our states, Maine, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland. We don't have everybody in Vermont yet. But each state is set up to be its own central hub. And we're running a JNOS bulletin board system on there. So all the messaging comes through there and is shared between them. So we have our own quote unquote mesh of the ham gates. Also, at each ham gate is a separate WireGuard VPN server. And there, at the moment, we've set up with is 64 separate client IP addresses for tunnels. Everybody who asks for a WireGuard account, I set up the configuration file and they get one of those tunnels. The tunnel is set up to only allow 44net traffic up and down the tunnel. Two reasons. One, as we say in the documentation, and Mark NI2O wrote the documentation, so he's very adamant about things, and I agree with him. We are not your internet. We are not your ISP. We don't want you to use your 44net tunnel to go to, and I don't know how prim and proper people are here, but
Amazon.
We don't want you to go to Amazon. We don't want you to go to Tits R Us. We don't want any of that stuff going down the tunnel. When you set up your MikroTik or GL or even your own home router, and I know Steve has this with, I think it's like Ubiquity, you have a WireGuard client in there. We give you the credentials that allow you to come into the state ham gate and say, hey, I want a tunnel. Here's my credentials. In there is instructions that we are not your internet provider. So only 44net traffic goes down the tunnel and the rest of it should be routed through your normal default routing. Okay. Conversely, that would happen as well, but also with this additional point, how many of us expose our stuff to the internet? And we get surprised when somebody keeps trying to hack into it. I've had it on my JNOS BBS 15 years ago. Tons of Chinese hackers trying to get in, creating all sorts of crazy messages on my BBS, which were trapped. I can show you the file. I haven't thrown out anything. So by having that type of security, nobody at all who does not have a 44net address will ever get up those tunnels. It's for safety's sake, because 44net is amateur radio. And my elevator pitch to anybody who asks me, what's 44net? I said, it's just like the internet, but it's ham radio only. And you could be 99.99% assured that the person coming in with the 44 address is a ham. So this now brings up a point of contention when you had a lot of these digital repeaters that are talking on public internet space. And when they're being told by ARDC, you can shove everything down the tunnel. Well, here's the weird thing, and this is the difference. The VPN that ARDC is testing right now, they have 3 test sites.
We just lost your audio, Charles. Charles, we just lost your audio. I don't know what happened.
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Now we can. Okay.
Okay, I don't know why. All right. So ARDC has these 3 sites set up, West Coast, East Coast, and Europe. And when you look at their documentation, they are allowing non-44net IP addresses to go up and down that tunnel. So they are, in effect, acting like an internet provider. So it's not a virtual private network in my mind. It's a virtual public network that they're running. And that would expose you. And I've expressed this. There's a mailing list that is just for the VPN beta testers, and I'm on that. And I told them, you are now exposing everybody to the great unwashed internet where people can hack them. And you know what the answer was I got from K9DC? or KD9C, whatever his call is. He said, well, it's up to the individual to lock down their own system. I said, most of the people that get a 44 net address are not network savvy. You're throwing them to the wolves. They don't care.
They get embarrassed by being exposed to a basic fact like that.
So is there anything that can be done to block them out of the rest of the amateur radio network?
All we can do by using our VPN tunnels is only let 44 net traffic in.
Yeah, but can we block them from connecting to your network?
Them meaning who? ARDC?
The ones that are allowing the non-amateur radio traffic to transfer.
Well, if they have a 44 net address, they can connect in. If somebody's coming in, let's say they
Can
got
you
a
block their IP address?
we can block the public IP address from coming in. Yes.
So
if they are a legitimate 44 net.
Charles, you don't understand what he's asking. He's asking basically, can you filter out their dumbass move? And the answer is no, because they're going to inject over 44 net.
So you can't block an individual IPS address on the 44 net.
Oh yes, you could do that. You could at your station, or we could at the ham gates.
It's like playing whack-a-mole. We need to just correct them from being dumbasses.
Yes.
Yeah. If
good luck.
I'm still confused. They have an IP address.
No, Don, you're missing what Charles is talking about.
Oh, okay.
The fact of the matter is ARDC is not limiting everything to 44 net only. So that means everybody's sending all their porn, all their shopping cart stuff, all their airline stuff, everything through the tunnel. And ARDC's got the attitude, well, we'll let the individuals deal with that. And
okay, I guess I don't have a clear picture of how the network is put together.
Well, ARDC's new tunnels, they allow everything as if they are the internet. We don't.
I understand. So you can't block the traffic that's coming to them.
no, you're missing the point, is that the people that would get an ARDC assignment, like we would do at Hamgate, they're letting people do dumbass shit because they don't know any better. And they're not filtering it out. So it could get into
It will affect them. It will affect that poor user that's on the ARDC tunnel. It won't affect us. Anybody who tries to get into our network.
Okay, you're talking about a third party, not
Yes.
our system.
Right.
So
it's locked down.
If I'm on the system you're describing, I don't have to worry about it because it's not coming to me.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, and you should see some of that traffic that does come through.
Okay.
There's all kinds of people probing your system, trying to find out anything they can about it.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So those people that are on that system have to be informed that they're at risk because of that.
That's why I speak up on the mailing list.
Yeah.
I've become a pariah in some people's eyes. I don't care. These people need to be educated, protected, and
You
mentored.
shouldn't- Yeah, and you shouldn't care because somebody has to be the monitor. Someone's got to stand up and say, hey, this is wrong, and you got to stop it.
Yeah, it's too bad the voters in my area didn't see fit to send me to Congress. But anyway.
That's why we have police forces. Just for that reason.
What police force?
Somebody's got to stand up and say no.
So for those who at this point are throwing their hands up and saying, well, then how do I do X? How do I get public internet addresses to come into me purposely? Like these IRLP repeaters, let's say, and 44net at the same time. Well, there's a way to do that. It is not difficult to do. It's just that you have to take a slightly different approach in that the 44net, you want to still put it on the tunnels? Great. Put it in the Hamgate tunnel. You know that whatever's on that tunnel is only 44net. Anything that's a public internet address, you have it go through your router the regular way, and whoever's connecting to you uses a specific port and you do port forwarding inside. You can get both of them done at the same time, just that the proper traffic has to go down the proper route.
Right, you've got to specifically selectively allow that, not just blanket allow shit.
Right. Like on my JNOS bulletin board system, the
Can-
default is to allow
Can we
everything.
not- Can we not try to get everybody as a network expert right now, because you're gonna lose.
Right. No. I just want to make a point. The default is to allow everything in. There is certain commands in the configuration file where I first lock out every single possible port and IP address. And if I left it that way, nobody would ever connect to me. And then I selectively open up 44net and I open up specific ports. Anybody tries anything else, they're not getting onto my system.
You're missing my point, Charles. I wanted you to talk about the fact we've got ham gates in each of these states. They can get a MikroTik or a GLI router and join the 44net safely and not have to be these networking experts. Steve, it looks like you've got a question.
I have a comment. I have a Ubiquity router that runs WireGuard right on the router.
Yes.
I don't need the MikroTik or other router.
Anything that runs WireGuard can be on 44net through the Hamgate servers that Charles is.
Yeah, and Charles is absolutely right. And I want, for what it's worth, I'm a retired academic and Wharton MBA, and you've got $130 million foundation that has neither the technical expertise nor the management leadership to be running $130 million foundation.
Right.
That is bad for amateur radio. I mean, it's bad for what we're talking about here, digital communication, but in the big picture, it's bad for amateur radio. And that's another thing we have to keep in mind and work on. At least that's my focus. Thank you. I'll shut up now.
No, that was very good input, Steve, and that's
Thank you,
very
Steve.
appreciated. And that.
Okay. Any questions? Because I got to bounce out of here soon.
And I would encourage any of you that are concerned about that, get on the RDC list, ARDC list, and get active with that organization and keep making your voices heard. Because it's over our heads in this group. But there are a lot of smart people in this group that know those problems and issues, and Steve brought it up, Mark brings it up, Charles brings it up. You guys are smart people, but if you get more and more of those people, but you got to do it on the ARDC list and make noises with that group. I can't.
I have a question for Charles before he takes off. The your Hamgate MikroTik setup, does that work through carrier grade NAT? Or do you need static IPs on both sides?
No, you don't. I've used it on my cell phone.
Okay, that's my question. Because
you as the client request the tunnel. So however you get to the Hamgate, even if it's carrier grade, double NAT, everything, then the tunnel is created and just the traffic is passed up the tunnel. There is built into the configuration file that we send you one line that says keep alive 25. That means every 25 seconds, there's a single TCP packet to keep that tunnel open.
We've got it working on, in Florida, especially on Wi-Fi hotspots over a cellular network. It works very well. Now, that's why the Florida network is now connected to the EastNet system.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I have 44net going, and dealing with the carrier grade NAT is just a little bit, well, quite a bit above my skill set. So I'm glad you guys figured that out. So I'll have to get in contact with Charles there.
That's what we're going to be putting on the Putnam County K2 PUT site on Tuesday when we go down there.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I like a redundant link than what I got going on now. So that'd be great. I'll contact Charles offline there.
There you go.
K1UH, Charles, do the ham gates filter non-44 net packets in either direction?
Yes, both directions. One, it will not allow you to send one down the tunnel, and anybody trying to get to you will not be able to go up to the tunnel from the Hamgate side. That's why I said you could run them in parallel. You take the non-44 address and send it out through your normal default routing.
The problem with my normal default routing is it's subject to NAT to my carrier. If I'm on Comcast or Spectrum and I want to send a packet to 67 dot something, it's going to end up natting instead of coming from the 44 address of one of my devices. It's going to get natted out. So the replies will be, right?
No, because you've got the WireGuard tunnel set up, and because your WireGuard device, whether it's a MikroTik, a GLI, or a Ubiquiti router, that'll take the 44 traffic, tunnel it through to the ham gates, and get through your NAT.
Right, but he's talking about coming back the other way, somebody responding to him.
Exactly.
And yes, a public IP address trying to talk to a 44 net will go through UCSD, get encapsulated, but by the time it gets to the ham gate, it gets stripped out. Now the tunnel is seeing this public address trying to go up the tunnel, and it will not allow that. However, if you are running your devices on Linux, okay, you can have it respond to both. You can have, all right, that's how I have my personal BBS set up. It's running on a Linux machine. And anybody from a public address can connect to it using my public address. And anybody who's 44net comes in through the mesh tunneling network. So there is a way to do it.
You can whitelist a public IP address, is what you're saying.
No.
Charles.
All right.
You can specifically allow a public IP address.
It's a split tunnel. It's
Yeah.
a split tunnel. You are tunneling the 44 net through the ham gate, and anything else is being handled through the through your regular ISP. Now, yes, your ISP can change your dynamic public IP address, but if you use a dynamic DNS app to update, you just use a fully qualified domain name and not an IP address, and you're fine.
Greg, you're worried about trying to connect to other DMR sites that are coming from public IP addresses, right?
I am. I want to be able to have an arbitrary a public connection and a guy who's using Echolink or Allstar or something like that come into my 44 net the device, but he's sourcing from a public random public IP.
Where's the device? At your house?
Oh yeah, it's at my house on a Comcast connection.
Oh, so that one you could at your home router allow things through the home router from the public side.
I'm doing that now using my Comcast public NAT with port forwarding, but I just, instead of using
that won't change. 44 net will just allow 44 net stuff to also work. That's
right
what he's about to split. So you can still do both.
All right. Well, I'm going to defer it and talk in more detail with Charles during the coming week about
we'll
that.
do some testing and stuff.
But
yeah, I'm going to have pretty.
I do it here all the time. Any other stuff comes in publicly, but all the routing that's 44 net just gets tunneled through the ham gate stuff. If you've got other stuff still
Right.
working, it can still work.
Yeah, all right. I mean, I don't want to take it up with all the detail, but I understand the problem, and there's just a couple of bits of clarification we'll do in detail by telephone probably or email. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Greg. Glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here too.
All right, I know Brian was having the same situation. And Brian, BKW, you okay with that?
Yes, I understand. I just wasn't quite sure about the USCD stuff. It sounded like you were saying that would allow it, but then I thought today you said it still doesn't.
Right, UCSD will allow a public address into their mesh network, but you still got to do something with it when it reaches you because you're going to unencap it. The problem is it gets unencapped at the ham gate, and then only the 44 net goes up that particular tunnel. So if you want that public address repeater to talk to you, they need to talk to you from public to public.
Do you have the public address already working at your home router, Brian?
No, not with a DNS. So yeah, but I understand what we're saying.
Yep.
All right, as Steve talked about the fully qualified domain name, we still got to set up domain address records, records
Yeah.
for every single one of your IP addresses. And it is not impossible to have a
This
record
isn't
for
good.
you pointing to your public address instead. Okay. In fact, if you the hamgate.amper.org address that I gave out, that is accessible on the public internet, even though it says amper.org. So we can do things like that.
Just got to be carefully managed. That's
Yes, it's got to be very, very controlled. All right, guys, it's past 11:15. I got to bounce. Any questions for me before I go?
okay. Thanks, Charles. I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Matt, while you're still on the phone, you got anything you want to chime in with?
No, I don't think so. I was just a couple things I didn't mention on my intro was my location in Connecticut. I'm in Hartford County, just about 4 miles east of Hartford, and my main, I don't know, goal or interest lately with Packet has been improving the ability to pass personal messages, across the world. There's been a slight increase in Packet user activity, especially in the Northeast, and that has shown that there's been hams, say in the Northeast that are new to Packet or coming back to Packet after a long time of being off, and they've got old time Packet friends, elsewhere in the country, and none of them having a lot of recent experience, and they're just sending messages back and forth. And what I've noticed over the last year is that these messages will land on a BBS and have nowhere to go. And then sometimes they'll say, back to the origination, which might be, my system or a system close to me. So what happened to my message? And there's very little tracing that you can do once it leaves your system. But anyways,
We've got to work.
I've put a lot of effort in.
Yeah,
I put a lot of effort in lately to improve that, find other BBSs in other parts of the country to forward them to, make sure they end up at their end location. So that's what my interest has been lately, is just to get personal messages, and that can also be NTS because they're handled very similar in routing.
Yep.
So that's basically all I've been working on.
Before I forget, I'd like to have a private conversation with you, is something related, but just related specifically for you. So when you get a chance, give me a call. That would be great.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Let's see. We're already 2 hours, even starting late. So Steve, good to see you. Everybody, I can't stress enough how happy I am that you're all here, that you're all are contributing. You guys are amazing. The efforts that you're putting in and whatever thing that you're interested in with this EastNet group and that you're here to learn about, and the things that you're attempting to do, please continue. Again, we do quarterly meetings and we alternate. One quarter, it's a Saturday morning meeting. The next quarter, it's got a Thursday night meeting. And we do that basically so that we can try to accommodate everybody's schedules who might have weird hours or availability. So you may only be able to get in twice a year. You may be able to get into every meeting, but that's how we do it. And I appreciate everybody who's here. The EastNet mailing list is a great place. It's not just EastNet specific, but anything digital that you guys want to talk about, by all means, use it. It's a light traffic list if you're not subscribed to it. And again, I would also encourage everybody to subscribe to the Zero Retries newsletter if you're not part of it. It's another good source of cool techie stuff that I always find enjoyable. So again, thank you very much. I can't thank Don, thanks for the use of the Zoom, and
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
everybody have a great day. Any last questions before we hang up here, or any last minute requests for information or who to talk to about something?
If you can't be good, be careful.
Can't be good at it. That's all.
That too.
If you can't be good, don't get caught.
Don't use my name.
Right. Yeah, keep your enemy's business card with you and leave it with that.
Right.
Thanks for all the comments, and it's nice that everybody used the chat. I just hope this keeps the activity going and that we have this many and more participating in the next. Don, when's the next meeting? It's a Thursday. It's going to be 3 months from now, so that's going to be September.
All right, let me bring that up and I'll tell you in a minute here. The next meeting is September 12th.
Thursday night will be
September 12th, that's Thursday, 7 p.m.
We normally put the announcement out on the list, but just for a heads up. And looking forward to everybody. Thanks again. I hope everybody found something, at least one thing that they came to the meeting, that they got the information they look for. So bye, everybody. Thank you very much. Take care.